film opens with a young woman called in her room, praying. Her mother wants to be allowed inside after knocking on the door, and is still praying, though, while her mother violently smashes the door with her skull, and is now a mature woman and a nun. When we meet her with Dr. Peter, she admits that her mother was depressed, but she knows it was more than that. She knows that she was possessed since she has loved and damaged her in different ways throughout the years. Then, we spot the ST following this and visits Natalie's room, where the doctor and a few students are already there. And informs the students that Natalie's mother believes Natalie is being possessed by a malevolent force, but disagrees, and strikes up a conversation with Natalie after they depart, and Natalie tells him that she is her favorite person here, and now recalls how her mother used to hurt her when she sees her mother's comb at night. She feels as though someone is standing outside her door as she tries to lock the window and notices Natalie's reflection in the glass. As she looks outside, we find Natalie standing there, and as Anna moves to follow her, she hears noise coming from the other assistant the following day, and feels a bit afraid when she hears her mother whispering in the hallway. Suddenly, Natalie shows up and tells him that she doesn't like that room. How did she escape that room? Aaron wonders, which she doesn't respond to. After Aaron leaves her in her room, he hears his mother's voice once again, telling him that she is with him. Then, from a chamber, he hears a strange female voice speaking in Bulgarian. When it approaches that room, she observes that a lesson with a video playing is taking place inside, and she decides to attend. Father Quinn informs the students that Elena has entered the latter stages of her possession in this scene. At this point, the possessed individual exhibits profound bodily and spiritual corruption. Though death is near in this, deliverance is yet conceivable. And tragically, death took precedence in Elena's situation. After that, he claims that devils have no fear of anyone. Additionally, the devil will make every effort to divert you when you enter a possessed person's chamber, but your most potent tool is the Bible. He asks the class, what would you have done differently? After realizing that the priests made some deadly mistakes in Elena's exorcism. Now that Anne is delving deeply into Elena's case, she begins to hear from the voice. Then we see her telling Dr. Peter that her mother claimed that Anne, one of God's chosen soldiers, was what the voices truly desired rather than her. At this point, Sister Euphemia informs Father Quinn about what she witnesses and doing. She explains that the exorcist training program is restricted to male clergy only, per church regulations. They are just here to offer consolation, pray, and demonstrate mercy. She responds when Anne challenges her on this point. Following this, Clark, the patient, begins humming a song as she gives him a bed bath. When Anne hears this, she's a little shocked and wonders how he knows the song. After he responds that they were waiting for her, and notices that Clark's body is on fire. Afterwards, Anne's mother's version of the song begins to play on the speakers, and as she tries to exit, the door automatically closes. When she shouts for assistance, Clark strikes her out of the blue and demands to enter. When Anne tries to flee, he finds her and begins dancing with her, but Anne is able to save herself. Now that Father Quinn and Sister Euphemia have shown the bishop the film, he claims that Sister Anne was attacked by this demon for no apparent reason. Upon Sister advises them to return Anne to the monastery for her safety, Father Quinn, however, believes Anne ought to remain here. He only wants to protect her and other people, thus he wants to teach her informally. He believes Anne has a personal contact with the devil, though he isn't sure of the details. Now that the bishop has given Anne permission, she may attend the exorcism class. Father Quinn greets her warmly, and Anne is thrilled about this as well. Then, taking them for a practical, he informs them that the patient is a recent admission with a diagnosis of epilepsy from Dr. Peter, and raises her hand first when Father adds, "I need to volunteers," realizing that the subject is none other than Natalie. Father Quinn, however, decides between Father Danny and Father Raymond. After that, he begins to get them ready by telling them a few things and giving them some crucial items that will help them during the exorcism. As fathers Dante and Raymond enter Natalie's chamber to begin the exorcism procedure, they discover that Natalie is possessed. As they begin to pray, Natalie climbs up the wall and inserts her fingers into her ears. It is the first of the two volunteers to raise her hand. They are both terrified to see this, but Father Quinn begs them to keep praying. As soon as he says that, Natalie leaps to her feet and walks toward the mirror, which it is standing in front of. She puts her palms over her eyes, causing insects to fly out. Upon hearing her request for him to let her inside, Father Quinn enters the room. Now that he has the situation in his hands, he tries to drive the devil out, but Natalie crawls under the bed. When her father takes off the blanket, she sees him above the bed, but there's nobody there, so she strikes him from underneath. Subsequently, she steps away from the bed, and enters the room as well. When she tries to talk to him, Natalie screams. However, after a while, she becomes normal and then abruptly collapses, her hair getting stuck in her mouth. When a hand emerges from Natalie's mouth and she becomes normal again, and comforts her while Father Dante and Raymond attempt to remove the hair from her mouth and Father Quinn and begin reading prayers. Following this, Dante and Raymond talk about it and inform him that it is now possible as a result of her. Then, Dante informs them that his sister Emilia was and fell pregnant while displaying a drawing that Natalie had created. Later on, discovers a dead body in the place where she was going to store some possessions. She discovers her mother's lifeless body when she goes to investigate. After hearing a noise behind her, she turns to see that no one is on the bed. Her mother then appears to be attacking her, but it turns out to be a nightmare. Following this, she visits Natalie, who is detained in a special room. He is informed by Natalie that she had a nightmare in which she saw people yelling, possibly at a voice. That voice gives her instructions, assures her, and occasionally even performs actions. She then adds that although she wasn't yelling, she was present as well. She then queries Father Quinn about whether Natalie was purified, which he claims to be uncertain about. She will be closely watched, and if things go out of hand, she will be sent to the Vatican. Natalie's condition is terminal, she assures him. Yes, he responds, adding that only the most experienced exorcists are qualified to deal with terminal cases. She can also offer prayers for Natalie if that would be helpful. Next, with Dante's assistance, she gains entry to the hidden archives and peruses their contents to learn about the past of the terminal cases. She discovers that everyone who was transferred to the Vatican had passed away, with the exception of Mila, one of the girls, who had been freed. And plays back the recording of the girl's interview in which she claims that her sisters were shot by the military. She used to be able to manage the devil that spoke to her over those gunshot sounds. After taking off her prosthetic nose, she explains that she continued to ask God for forgiveness even though she felt she didn't deserve it. After informs the psychiatrist that her mother used to feel guilty, a scenario from her past is revealed to us. Her mother is furiously searching for her, but she is hiding from her. But despite all, Anne's mother passes away, and she blamed herself for it. When a nurse comes by to inform her that access to Natalie's room has been restricted, she tries to get to her room after that, and approaches Father Quinn directly and informs him that, due to Natalie's 90% fatality rate, he is unable to transfer her. In these circumstances, she tries to persuade him. The victim's shame and remorse were so great that they let the devil in and gave up control. Natalie is asked about her humiliation by her father, but she is unable to respond. Although her father expresses his deep trust in her, she must see the danger that lies ahead. As she storms out, Dante stops her and asks if there's any way she can convince them that she is correct. He attempted to have his possessed sister admitted here, but the church refused to allow her because she was expecting a child, and inquires whether he would like to try an unapproved exorcism. In response, he claims that he is powerless and that he witnessed her ability to communicate with the demon. Following that, he shows her to his home and informs her that his sister has been asleep for the past 3 days, and notices Emilia scratching her tummy as they begin the exorcism. Emilia wakes up unexpectedly, and Dante informs her that it has come to help, despite her best efforts to soothe him. As Dante starts reciting the prayers, Emilia asks him if she has any idea what it's like to have something growing inside of you. Emilia responds that at least Dan's child knew who his father was, to which he confirms absolutely. Emilia's stomach begins to swell as all of the room's candles abruptly go out, and approaches Emilia and urges her to battle the monster after noticing handprints on his tummy, and advises Emilia to come to her own confession and she will be pardoned. Dante is instructed to continue chanting prayers. The candles then start to burn on their own, Emilia's stomach returns to normal, and their exorcism is ultimately effective. And now reveals to Dante that she became pregnant at the age of 15 and was unaware of the child's paternity. After being taken out of the foster family, she was able to find sanctuary with the Sisters of St. Mary's. The sisters made arrangements for her child's adoption as she briefly held her infant. Now, Cardinal Matthew calls in the following day to inform her that Emilia committed herself the previous evening. Emilia's mother revealed to her that she had made an effort at exorcism. The cardinal strikes out at her when she tries to explain, and is informed by Father Quinn that although he believed he was vanquished, it was not the case. And, aware of all this, regretfully decides that, in response to the tragedy, she will return to her former convent. When Dr. Peter finally shows up to see her a few days later, and is overjoyed to hear that Natalie has been released following observation. When Father Dante returns a few days later, and is accosted by the cardinal, who becomes enraged with her explanation that Natalie had a relapse and needed to be taken back to the church. Dante pays her another visit and informs her that Natalie had a relapse and needed to be sent back to the church right away. As they arrived, they discovered the bodies of a priest and 2 orderlies. He responds that this won't happen because Natalie doesn't have much time left and that it is a terminal case who will be transported to the Vatican. In order to avoid endangering further lives, they have relocated him to the tunnels beneath the main structure and are trying to perform an exorcism on him. Is he telling her something? And asks. Dante responds, because he gave it to him, to that, and tells him she had wrapped it around her baby girl's wrist the day she gave her up for adoption and that she had found it when she arrived at St. Mary's. He understands that Demon is utilizing Natalie, who is his daughter, in order to have access to her. Now that Dante has taken her in secret to the location where Natalie was held, she is able to see the baptismal well that was formerly in use. They then proceed to the location where Raymond and the priests are currently reciting prayers, and is told by Natalie not to act strangely, and Raymond, who is startled to see them, wants to return. Everyone in the room is terrified when it asks Natalie to let the demons go because it's only then that she turns the place dark. As Demon now attacks each priest individually, Dante goes to see how Raymond is doing. Subsequently, and appears from behind and they discover Raymond's lifeless body there. After a short while, they run across Natalie, who questions him about why she left. He triumphs, and acknowledges that she is not Natalie. The demon enters and after Natalie rushes over to give him a hug, and tells Dante to flee when he scoops her up and looks at her, and claims to be possessed. After spotting and floating in midair, Dante and Natalie flee. After telling Natalie to locate a safe spot to hide, he stays behind to face the demon, and now begins to move in his direction, but she pauses before getting close to him, and it is only then that she notices him across the gate. Demon fights Dante and goes in pursuit of Natalie when Dan urges him to leave her go. That is, until he hears Anne's mother's voice and abruptly takes Natalie and is going to kill her, with the ability to battle the monster. Natalie is given the ability to see his mother and their early years in the past visions that he is now seeing. Placing the cross on her forehead, she steps into the holy water pool at the baptismal well. By that point, Dante has also arrived, and as the pool explodes, his body rises to the surface, and has defeated the demons, as Dante observes when he yanks her out of the pool. After all of this, the Vatican has granted an academic research fellowship because they are so pleased with her. She thanks Father Quinn before saying goodbye. Father Quinn warns her to be cautious since the devil now knows her and she now knows him. And now realizes that the cab driver is the elderly man who had tormented her in the church when the cab stops at a location and she notices that an odd woman is staring at her. When it tries to exit the vehicle, the woman is standing outside, and a cabbie is suddenly seated just behind her. The movie finished here with an arming herself with a crucifix as the driver growls and lunges at her. To ensure you never miss any updates on new videos, kindly click the bell icon and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.